Okay, so last night on your assignment, number 5, you had to balance the equation that you see. H2O2 yields H2O plus O2, oxygen gas. So how would you do that? Step 1, as I said, you're going to draw a line under your arrow. You're going to list each one of your elements. So we've got hydrogen, then we've got our oxygen, then over here we've got hydrogen, and then we've got oxygen. So we need to know how many hydrogen and how many oxygen we have on each side. So let's start counting our atoms. So here we've got 2 as a subscript. Remember, we can't change subscripts. We can only change coefficients. Right now we've got an imaginary 1 for the coefficient in front of the hydrogen atom. So we don't have to worry about 1 times 2 is still going to give me 2 hydrogen atoms. And then I've got a subscript of 2 here. An imaginary 1 is going to be 2 hydrogen atoms. Over here, I've only got 1 that I have to worry about as far as the hydrogen, and it has a subscript of 2. So again, if I had an imaginary coefficient of 1 here, 1 times 2 would still give me only 2 hydrogen on this side. Now, because this is water and it's now a molecule, it's hydrogen and oxygen that's formed water, I'm going to have to see this imaginary coefficient here, and I'm putting it here just for you to see the example. 1 times 2 would still only give me 2 hydrogen, and then I would have to take into account this 1 times this imaginary 1 subscript, still going to be 1, but don't forget we have 2 over here. So 2 hydrogen, because see, I could also show you the 1 as my coefficient, it's imaginary. 1 times 2 is going to give me 2 oxygen here. I've got 1 oxygen here, so 1 plus 2 is going to give me 3. Okay? So you can clearly see that my oxygen on my reactant side is not balanced with my product on my, with oxygen on my product side. Excuse me. So we need to fix that. So how could we do that? We're going to have to find a way to balance. And remember, I said you can change coefficients. So let's just try it. So if I have H2O here, H2O2, sorry. And then I have the H2O, my water, plus my oxygen gas. How could I change coefficients to get a balanced equation? Well, let's take a look at what coefficients we could change. So let's start on this side first. So right here I have an imaginary 1 coefficient. But what if I were to put a 2 here? Okay? So if I put a 2 here, let's just say for all intents and purposes, got my hydrogen, oxygen, hydrogen, oxygen. So if I put a 2 here, I would have to say 2 times 2 is going to give me 4 hydrogen. And then because this is written together with no plus sign in between, we know this is a molecule. So we would have to multiply this 2 also by this 2 on the oxygen. And 2 times 2 is going to give me 4. So let's take a look at this one. Now on this side, I need to have 4 hydrogen and 4 oxygen. So how could I manipulate coefficients here in order to do the same thing to give me a balanced equation? Well, since I've got 4 hydrogen here, I'm going to start right here, and I'm going to make my coefficient on this side 2. So I'm randomly choosing 2. But I know 2 times 2 is going to give me 4, so I can go ahead already and say I've got 4 hydrogen, right? And since this is a molecule not separated by a plus sign, I know I got to take this 2 and multiply it by my imaginary subscript of 1. So 2 times 1 is going to give me 2 atoms of oxygen. And then I've got to add the 2 that I have here. So 2 plus 2 is going to give me 4. And now I can see that these are balanced on both sides as well as my hydrogen atoms. So that would have been how you would have done your homework assignment.